everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Essays and Espresso podcast. Here with me, I have my two stalwart co-hosts. Boken, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
Good. And how are you, Acer?
I'm also fine.
Good to hear. So
You don't sound fine.
I'm fine.
well, we should trust him. If he feels fine, then he's fine. Don't go psychoanalyzing the man.
Yeah, Bogan.
I know for a fact Acer is not fine.
Oh, okay then. Elucidate on this then. Why is he factually not fine?
I mean, he spends his free time playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh my god, I can't believe
You know
went
what?
there.
It's hard to argue with that.
Hey now.
And
No,
reading
guys.
comics, you know?
I haven't
Like,
read a
you
comic
You read
book in
comics,
years.
don't you?
I don't read comics? What? How
But,
dare
Oh,
you?
Oh no, you just watch movies based on comics.
Yeah. That's way less time invested.
That's
No,
I mean,
Yeah, it is.
a comic book you just flip through and you watch the pretty images.
the only comic I want to read is Watchmen.
That's good. You should also
That's-
read Miracle Man.
Actually, there's another one I'm interested in. I think it's called Transmetropolitan.
Yes, that's also good.
Yeah, I've heard
It's by
that was
Grant
really
Morrison. The Matrix guys just ripped it off when they, Matrix girls now, they ripped it off when they, it's true, when they made the Matrix.
good. Okay. Didn't the Matrix rip off Ghost in the Shell?
Ripped up everything. You know, speaking of the Wachowski sisters, did you guys watch Sense8?
No.
No.
I didn't either. But I was an extra in one of the episodes. You can't see my face, but it was in the symphony. I think there's a woman having like a seizure, and you can see, like I've seen that part of the episode. She's having a seizure in like an opera or a symphony or something, and I'm there in the background, and you can see there's a guy with a red tie. That's me, just sitting behind her, and I'm furious at the Wachowskis because I showed up in my like fine suit and I had my red tie, and then after sitting there for 3 hours filming. Someone came to me and took my tie and explained, it's too bright. Here's a more matte, dark tie we want you to wear, which is dark red. And that's not the tie that landed in the episode. So they stole my good tie, and I have, in my wardrobe, their shit tie.
They just took your tie?
They stole it?
He stored it for me. He said, oh, I'll give it back to you.
So you forgot to ask for it?
It's not my job to ask for it. He stole it.
Is he gonna sift through like 2,000 extras? And I gave that guy my matte red tie.
Yeah.
Better get it. I'm sure.
A better
It's your responsibility.
A better producer would have.
Yeah.
Okay. Before this conversation tumbles further, the essay question for this episode, when we get to it halfway through, is what can modern games learn from older games? So that should be interesting. But before that, Boken, you and Acer are probably going to start foaming at the mouth over the new Spider-Man movie, which I didn't see, nor do I care about. So why don't you two just do that?
Hey, Bogan, don't you think Daniel is cool because he doesn't care about superheroes? He's so original. Daniel, not caring about superheroes is not a personality, just so you know.
I never said that I don't like superheroes. I like Batman.
So I'm definitely foaming at the mouth for this movie, but because I'm so fucking angry, disappointed.
What,
and I want to
you
scream.
didn't like Jake Gyllenhaal?
No, I
good.
love Jake Gyllenhaal. That's not the problem.
Everything about Mysterio was great.
No, it wasn't. That was the worst part of the
Elaborate.
movie.
Elaborate.
Oh, this is getting spicy.
Okay, so I'm not really angry.
How familiar are you with Mysterio in the comics?
Not at all, because as we already established, I don't read comics.
Okay.
I saw the Spider-Man animated series. Does that count?
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah, I saw that too, but I mean,
People-
I've been...
I barely remember Mysterio though.
People need to get over that series. It is trash. It is awful. The Spectacular Spider-Man, which came in 2008 or something, that is the best Spider-Man animated TV series.
Oh, look at you, you fucking hipster. Like, oh, that thing that you like is shit. This obscure thing that no one knows about is where it's really at.
Oh my god, I can't believe you just used my words against me.
You know, when people call me a hipster, I just say, yeah. Of course.
I can't help it if I have good taste. Pshaw.
Hey, mate, you recommended Monster. Talk about taste. Anyway, Bogan, you,
Okay,
how
try and
familiar
find
are you
anyone.
with-
Try and find anyone that's gonna like agree with you there. Try and find anyone to be like, "Oh yeah, Acer, what a bird! Totally on point."
There'll be one guy.
And that person will be wrong.
I'll create a separate account. How familiar are you?
Acer is gonna phone in for the next episode as someone else.
Oh, hey guys, it's my friend, Jason Aesthetics. How familiar are you with Mysterio, Bogan?
I knew that he's about illusions.
Okay.
And that I
Yeah.
probably had to expect something like this. So, okay, spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home.
Spoilers, everyone.
Real
It's
quick,
been out for a couple of weeks.
before you guys get into it, there are timestamps in the description. If you don't want to be spoiled, just choose the one after the Spider-Man discussion.
Okay. You know, Daniel, you said that, but you're still gonna get the comment. Why did you spoil Spider-Man for me? It's out of our hands now.
It's not my fault if you don't pay attention.
So, Bogan,
I'm actually, I'm the one creating all the timestamps in the description. And what you guys don't know is that I'm leaving little fun jabs at you in those timestamps.
Oh no.
How?
Instead of saying Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D or whatever,
5Ds?
5Ds. I just write down, oh god, another Yu-Gi-Oh! Talk, make it stop, I hate my life.
Oh.
And then
I
the
read
timestamp.
that actually. That made me smile.
I feel betrayed, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like, Bogan, you were sort of coming around to Yu-Gi-Oh!
No.
You were the chosen one.
Spider-Man, Bogan! We have to talk about this.
Yes. Ask me a third time how much I know about Mysterio.
So, what didn't you like about this?
Boy, all of it.
Okay.
So I'm super disappointed because I loved Homecoming.
Me too.
That is one of my favorite superhero movies of the last 10 years.
Mine too.
And with this one, so it's somewhat like it's entertaining, right? It's a Marvel movie, so the pacing is okay, the acting is great, all that stuff is there. But then the moment I was out of the cinema and I started thinking about it, I mean, during watching it, I already thought about it and was like, none of this makes any sense. But I feel like it's one of those movies where from now on, the more I think about it, the less I will actually think it's a good movie or even, worth my time.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do anything with the character, with Spider-Man. For one, there was no arc. He didn't learn anything.
He learned not to give the most powerful weapon in the world to a guy he kind of knows.
The guy he got to know 3 days ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the thing that Spider-Man does at the end, his heroic return, is he can activate his spider senses again. And then he's invincible. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Right? And nothing really sparked that. It was just like, okay, I need it now, so I will do it now. But my biggest problem is Mysterio himself. Because I love Jake Gyllenhaal, but the character is so sloppily written, and I don't think anything about him makes any sense.
I agree.
In terms of, you agree?
Yeah, I may have given a false impression. I'm not a super fan of this movie. I think Gyllenhaal and a lot of the Mysterio stuff was good, but as for like the motivations, as for all of that sort of the machinations of how exactly this character works, I think it was
what does he
underdeveloped.
want to do? What is his goal? How does his tech work? How did he come up with these convoluted plans, and how did they work out the way they do? None of it makes any sense.
In the comic books, Mysterio is my favorite Spider-Man villain. His whole shtick is that he's a special effects artist, and he pretends to be a magician, and he just robs banks. Right? He'll just use holograms and smoke and mirrors and that sort of stuff to just pull a bunch of tricks on people, make it look like I'm this magical guy. And a lot of the sort of illusions he pulls off in the movie, where Spider-Man gets into this trippy world, I thought that was amazing. It's like the Scarecrow in the Arkham games. But in this movie, it kind of just, I want to be powerful. I want to be a leader, and people only follow superheroes. So I'm going to pretend to be a superhero. It's like...
Yeah. So Daniel, for you, just so you understand, the movie starts out like the first third of the movie is Mysterio appears and all the Avengers are not available or whatever, and then these weird elemental monsters spawn, and Mysterio is apparently from another planet, and he helps the guys
dimension
defeat those monsters. Yeah, from another dimension. And then he does that. He defeats all the monsters, and Peter then gives him Tony Stark's glasses, which control Tony Stark's AI and all of his weapons, which Tony Stark gave him after he died in Endgame. And Peter is like, oh no, I'm not worthy, you take this, you're a hero. And and then it turns out everything Mysterio did was fake. It was all holograms and weird hologram drones, or hologram projecting drones that can shoot and explode and all that shit. And he was basically staging the whole thing so people believe him that he's a superhero, even though he's just some guy in a booth orchestrating the whole thing, and he has a crew with him. And then Spider-Man gives him those glasses, and then he's like, now I got real power, and now I can pretend to be a real superhero. And that's his plan.
What?
Yeah.
What? This sounds stupid.
It is really, really stupid.
See, the character works. The character works really well when he's confined to I want to rob a bank, or I'm gonna stop this parade float, and I'm gonna steal all the rupees off all the rich women in the crowd. That's the character in the comics, and he works really well there. When you try to transform him into a global figure, it doesn't work.
Because
I don't think it's
it
too
doesn't
convoluted.
work at all, because he was pretending to be the superhero. He projected himself as a flying superhero with magical powers as a hologram, fighting another hologram monster. But the monster, the monsters are real, the holograms are real, because they're all projected by these drones, which really doesn't make any sense, because the drones, they can fly into things and shoot at things, but a lot of it is punching and explosions, and it's not really clear what of that is how that damage to the actual surroundings of the projections, how that works. That makes no sense.
I was thinking, wait, how? So these are drones that are sending out a hologram to make them look like something they're not, but then how is what they're doing translating to actual damage?
They fly through a pillar, and the art that is the actual arm of the monster. So it looks like the monster is destroying the pillar, but it's really the drones. And stuff like that, and they can produce wind and all that.
Okay, and to be clear, the drones do not look... They're not the same size or shape of the monsters.
No, it's Daniel, multiple drones stacked together, flying in synchronized
They project the image on top of themselves working. So if it's like a snake, it'll be maybe 20 drones sort of looped around each other like a snake. So they kind of physically occupy the space and they can do the damage. But see, I wasn't bothered by that. My biggest problem with this rendition of Mysterio is just that I think it would have been a lot more fun if it wasn't drone technology and holograms. If it was just, I spiked everyone's drinks when they came into the reception. Or, I just used smoke and mirrors and I also put a lot of plastic explosives in the walls to trick you into thinking I was doing this stuff. I think drones is just so lazy. It's not interesting.
Well, but then it would be even more questionable if he has the same effects, how any of that worked. And it's questionable now. Like, what was my question? It doesn't. They show a little bit how the drones work, but it doesn't explain a lot of the shit that he's doing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, obviously, I haven't seen it, so I don't understand like the specific contradictions that this creates, but just like conceptually speaking, I can gather like, yeah, this would cause problems.
Yeah, a lot of problems.
And there's also a lot of, well, this wouldn't trick anybody because of these here reasons. Like, the monsters, they don't, like, physically they don't occupy the space. And if anybody was recording that and they would have put it on YouTube, it would have been noticeable. Some people, like the people on Reddit, would have gotten a hold of that and they'd have been like, oh, well, you notice how the sand around the monster's legs doesn't work properly. You notice how...
It's that meme like, oh no, this looks photoshopped. I can tell from some of the pixels.
Yeah. But in reality, that's how it would work. And it's hard. It's hard to buy into that version of Mysterio. I loved that his real costume was just a mocap suit.
Yeah. I love the character itself. Well, he was okay. Jake Gyllenhaal is a wonderful actor.
When he was pretending to be good, I thought if they actually everyone knew he was going to be evil, and I knew he's just pretending for some reason, and this is all make believe. But when he was pretending to be good, I was like, if they actually just run with this being Mysterio as just this magical guy who's like super nice, they won't. But if they did, I wouldn't be bothered by it. He's really sort of likable as this hero.
Yeah, but you can tell he's too nice.
Yeah.
You can tell there's going to be something.
He's like if Iron Man had the ethical sensibilities of Captain America.
And
the powers of Doctor Strange.
You know what really bothered me is they show how those drones work. And he has a crew with him, right? Like all people who worked for Tony Stark. And who can control these projections. And they show that it's a sequence that they have to program beforehand. Like how the monster looks, how the projection of Mysterio, where it flies around, how the fight is going in terms of narrative, right? They show that that's how it works.
They record lines.
Yeah, and they record when the monster is going to punch, how he's going to dodge, all that shit. They record that beforehand. So my question is, how did they incorporate what Spider-Man is going to do? How did they, like, Spider-Man jumps around and he gets hit by the monster and stuff is falling. It could have killed him.
Well, here's my question. If Spider-Man got hit by the monster, wouldn't he have felt the drone and not the monster and then go, hey, wait a minute, this is weird?
No. See, that's the thing. His spider sense only alerts him to real dangers. And that's why it was so wonky in all of those fights, because there weren't real monsters. So his spider sense didn't work.
Was that the... what? That's
no,
the implication?
what I'm asking is, like, the drones are made out of metal or something, right? Like, wouldn't he feel like...
Oh...
Like, if he's getting physically touched by the monsters, wouldn't he realize, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't feel like a fleshy monster that hit me.
It's
something
an elemental.
here.
To be
it's
fair,
a fire elemental that he fights.
So Spider-Man would have naturally avoided being hit by it because he wouldn't survive the punch. Then
But
there's
then
like
even then, like the monster appears from the ground, like it's lava spewing everywhere. How did the drones create that? Wouldn't you notice that it's not as hot as it should be around the monster? All that shit.
I can sort of accept the headcanon that maybe the drones just actually were underground and they just like melted they had just a bunch of melted metal which they spewed out. My problem isn't the believability so much as just I don't think this is the best way to deal with this character.
No, but those were the questions that took me out of the movie. There's a scene where Spider-Man is sitting on a rooftop, and then he has this one-to-one with Mysterio who flies up to him and talks about his powers and his responsibility and all that shit.
Okay,
how did they program that? How did they know what Spider-Man is gonna say so that he can say that back? How did they program that he's gonna just sit down next to him?
It's possible that he's just there's just a drone there and he's projecting the image of him and he's just speaking to him in real time.
But how did they program him flying up there and sitting down to him, down next to him in real time?
See, I don't know how much of it is programmed, just hard programmed, because he's using the hologram technology from Civil War, and that hologram technology is mind controlled. So you can sort of say, well, he's controlling it with his thoughts, but I think even that...
But that is the Tony Stark technology that he didn't have at that moment, because he didn't have the glasses yet.
No, he had access to that, didn't he? He created it.
But then what do you need the glasses for? Just more drones?
Yeah, for the drones and for for Tony Stark's AI, I believe.
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable for me, and that took me out of the movie the whole time.
I think the issues really are just Spider-Man in this movie. He is so stupid, and he makes so many weird decisions for the sake of plot contrivances. Like, okay, how do we get Jake Gyllenhaal the glasses? How about Spider-Man just gives them to him? Why does Spider-Man do that?
And he orchestrated the whole thing in this little pub with all his crew members around playing other people in the pub. What?
Yeah, it's weird.
And but also, what is Mysterio's goal? Once a real monster is showing up, what the fuck is he actually gonna do?
He's very nebulous in his he wants very nebulous power for reasons, and he wants to be rich, and he wants people to listen to him or something.
Yeah, they're all pissed at Tony Stark because Tony Stark
Stark
sold his company.
Dickhead.
Makes no sense. None of it makes any sense. But yeah, then they didn't do anything with Spider-Man, which bothered me. They didn't develop the relationship between Spider-Man and Mary Jane. That just happened between movies.
It's not Mary Jane. It's MJ, but it's not Mary Jane.
Is that not Mary? Okay.
No, her name is like Mary Ann Josephson, or I don't remember her name. But.
Okay.
Wait, but I thought you were doing a bit. What? I thought you were doing a bit. I thought you were making a joke. That's wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, like not my Mary Jane.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were.
Yeah, okay, but with them, but the point is, they start out with him already being in love with her, and he wasn't there at the end of the last movie. So that happened in between movies, and now I'm thrown into this romance that I have no idea of.
I think she'll take up the name if the movies continue and she becomes like a model, like Mary Jane in the comics. It's possible that Mary Jane will be her model name. She's not that kind of character.
Like,
the actress, I think, is a model.
Maybe she'll be a YouTuber. Maybe she'll be a YouTuber, and that will be her name on YouTube.
I think she's like maybe. I think she's an Instagram model or something like that.
Yeah,
in real life.
It's gonna be her pen name or something.
But the character is very different. She's like very nihilistic and sarcastic. And she doesn't care about popularity.
She's like every girl I knew at that age.
What?
Take that, girls. They don't listen to this.
So if I had to guess, though, going back to Mysterio real quick, I think a lot of that sounds like it could have been fixed if it wasn't Mysterio's character. Maybe it was like, I don't know, instead of drones and stuff, that person was just creating like illusion magic or something. And it was like a completely different character.
Yeah, well, that would have worked, but I think it also could have worked if he just like
or not even illusion magic, but like he was like he was able to conjure the monsters somehow, and they were real, but like it was still like something he orchestrated.
Then it would have been like Syndrome from The Incredibles. Did you guys watch The Incredibles?
I haven't seen the original Incredibles in a very long time.
Oh wait, I just watched that.
He was gonna fake that robot attack, and he was gonna come and stop it.
Oh yeah. But so, I still don't think the character like Mysterio works, because he would have worked if he had a more defined goal, like
yes,
I just want a bunch of money or something, or I just need this very specific thing, and I'm tricking the Avengers so that I can get it. But he just wanted more and more power, quote unquote. But ultimately, the moment something actually powerful, some kind of alien shows up, everyone's gonna find out that he can't do shit.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Like, what does he think he's working towards?
Yeah. That's our review of the movie, I guess. Oh, no. Okay, the post-credit scenes. J.K. Simmons is back.
That's what you're focusing on, right? My buddy that I watched that movie with was also like, oh, he's back. Oh.
That was spoiled for me. I was looking at trailers for the movie before I went to see it. And I put in like Spider-Man Far From Home, and the first suggestion was Spider-Man Far From Home, post-credit scenes, J.K. Simmons. I was like, no, what? I was so annoyed.
But yeah, Daniel, there are two post-credit scenes. One, or I guess it's in the same one, but so J. Jonah Jameson is back with the same actor from the Raimi universe, which is kind of weird because this is not the Raimi universe.
What?
Well, no one else can play that character. That is the greatest superhero casting ever.
I would have to agree.
But also, in that scene, they reveal Peter Parker's identity to the whole world. Oh, well, it is to the whole world, but they reveal it publicly on a town square in New York. And that is where it stops. So that is where the next movie will go to.
So what you guys are saying is people should instead watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's a better movie.
But probably yes.
You haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse?
I still need to.
That's the best twice. Spider-Man movie.
I've seen that movie twice. It's really good.
It's so good.
Well, you don't watch comic book movies, so what would you know?
I've seen
comic
book
Daniel,
movies.
What would you know?
It is good, though. I've seen some comic book movies.
Like what?
The Michael Keaton Batman movies. I saw all the Nolan Batman movies.
Yeah.
I saw the Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I saw Avengers.
Yeah.
Captain America, the first one. Thor.
Did you watch X-Men movies?
I saw the first one.
Those movies are so schizophrenic in quality. Anyway, Spider-Man. Do you guys want to hear a little behind the scenes of that movie? Sort of contract stuff.
You were an extra in that scene when they revealed Peter Parker's identity?
Yes. No. If it doesn't make $1 billion, then the right to a solo Spider-Man movie revert to Sony, and they can essentially just start doing their own Spider-Man movie with a Spider-Man in it. But here's the thing. They can't use any of the actors that were in this one.
No, fuck that.
No, but think about that for a moment. That would mean that, like, I don't think, like, Sony gets the rights. I don't
Sam
think
Raimi can make Spider-Man 4!
No, he couldn't. Because J.K. Simmons was in this movie. Yeah. I don't think Sony will.
Did it make $1 billion or whatever you just said?
I think it's a bit south of 900 billion.
Fuck.
I don't know if it would.
No, I don't want this Spider-Man to end. Fuck you.
No, I don't think Sony gets the right to do it. I don't think they will do it. They'd be crazy to do it.
So okay,
obviously
right
the
now
smart bet is to work with Marvel.
Right now it's at 879 million.
It might get to $1 billion.
What is that contract?
That's a weird
Who agreed to
contract.
that?
That's a weird contract.
Fucking hate Hollywood.
How do you know about this? Where did you hear this from?
I heard it on the Weekly Planet podcast, which is a better podcast than this.
Whoa.
Hey, why
Jesus Christ. That came out of nowhere.
Why are you throwing us under the bus? Why are you throwing yourself under the bus?
What the fuck?
What more did you do, Bogan?
That was it.
That was
We've
it.
just spent 30 minutes on Spider-Man.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk real quick, since we're on the topic of movies, about the Jane Silent Bob reboot. Are either of you familiar with Kevin Smith, the director?
Yeah.
Didn't he do Tusk?
He did Dogma too.
Yes, he did Tusk.
I heard he only does shit now.
He only does shit now, that's true.
Great.
Hey,
Acer,
Acer, wait, you brought up Dogma. How do you feel about that movie?
I think that's like conceptually a great movie, but I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I wouldn't be able to say if it is good.
I think the last time I saw it was like 5 or so years ago, and I remember still really liking it.
Okay.
But
Josh Carlin was really good in it.
So I was going to say a big fan. I am a fan of Kevin Smith, particularly his what I'm going to call his pre-weed movies. After he started smoking weed, his movies got progressively worse, with exception to Red State. That's the only like post-weed Kevin Smith movie that's actually any good. Cop Out was terrible. Tusk was just utter garbage. I haven't seen Yoga Hosers, but the little bit that I did see was just ugh.
About Cop Out, I've heard Kevin Smith say like really negative things about Bruce Willis. He was horrible to work with.
No, I read Kevin Smith's book, and he talks about it there.
What was it like working with him?
Well, apparently Bruce Willis was more of a director than Kevin was.
See, that's the thing. Oh, he was a dick to work with. You're saddling him up with Tracy Morgan and a shit script. You think he's gonna he's not gonna have any energy for this. What did you expect? Anyway.
He expected him to be professional.
Bruce Willis? No.
Well, the thing is, because Kevin worked with Bruce on Die Hard 4.
Oh, that's right.
So Kevin had a really
he
had a really positive experience with Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis said that he wanted to make a movie with Kevin.
Oh.
So that's why he went into making Cop Out with him as like, this is gonna be great.
Huh.
This shows how much I know about Kevin. I probably know more than I should. But
you're probably
Sounds
the
like
one Kevin Smith fan.
I mean, I've seen most of his movies. Clerks is legitimately fantastic. That is like such a good movie. Chasing Amy is one of my favorite movies.
I remember Mallrats.
Mallrats is a fun movie. It's a fun movie.
Wasn't Ben Affleck trying to sleep? No, he slept with like a 16-year-old girl.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And he got arrested at the end of the movie because of it.
Did you guys know Ben Affleck supposedly has a penis the size of your forearm? He's supposed to be like the most hung man in Hollywood.
I did not need to know this.
No, but now you do.
Really did not need to know that.
I'm kind of doubting that it's as big as my forearm.
Like
yeah,
as
that's
big as
kind of
your forearm.
ridiculous.
It's like it's like really big.
Well, Ben
I
Affleck's
thought Willem Dafoe is the most hung man in Hollywood.
Willem Dafoe. He did a movie with Madonna, where like Madonna was starring in a movie, and she was going to be like stranded on a beach in that movie or something. And there's a sex scene in that movie, which is not simulated; it's done for real.
Wait,
And
are
she
you serious?
Yes.
What?
And she was able to choose any actor to star as the male, and she chose Willem Dafoe. That's real.
No, I don't believe you. Madonna and
God.
Willem Dafoe didn't fuck on camera. Shut up.
Moving
Willem
on.
Dafoe.
Moving on.
No.
We are moving on. So I wanted to bring up the Jane Silent Bob.
Body of Evidence, 1993.
Oh my fucking! Shut up! Shut up! Just shut the fuck up. I feel like the JoJo stand crazy talk is activating right now, and you're just going off. Anyways, the Jane Silent Bob reboot trailer just dropped. And this is supposed to be like a...
In an interview with Entertainment Tonight
Shut
promoting
up!
the film, when asked about
Shut
performing
up!
the erotic scenes with Madonna,
Stop.
Willem Dafoe responded that
Just
it's
send
like
it to
an
me
action
later."
scene with a twist. She is a great partner to do something like that with.
We're moving on!
We're moving on. Sorry. I feel like you guys kind of asked for that, but let's continue.
No! No, we didn't! Anyways...
You fucking Puritan American, why are you against sex?
I'm not. I just want to get through my bit. Just let me do my bit. So, the trailer dropped for the new Jane Silent Bob reboot. Now, this is supposed to be like a sort of pseudo sequel to Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. That movie was like a kind of like a self-indulgent celebration of all of Kevin Smith's previous movies, and it's very self-aware, it's very charming and, you know, dumb, and it realizes how stupid of a movie it is, and that's part of the fun of that movie. And it's really enjoyable if you've seen Kevin Smith's previous movies. Like, that movie really is at its best if you catch all the references. So a sequel to that, for me, is like awesome. You know, I really like that movie. It's a fun movie. You know, another one like that sounds like a good time. Except I saw the trailer. So, Kevin Smith's greatest asset, and I don't think anyone is going to argue with me on this, is his dialogue. He writes very witty, very smart, very funny, most importantly, very natural sounding dialogue. The dialogue in this trailer sounded very forced and awkward. Like, characters... Like, so Kevin Smith has always written cuss words in his dialogue before. Like, that's a normal thing. But they come across as, like, normal parts of the dialogue. Like, it just sounds like, yeah, somebody would throw an F-bomb for emphasis at this moment, you know. It sounds like how a normal person would speak. But in the trailer, it sounded like there was the word fuck being thrown in just in every single line. Just shoved in there.
So it's like the Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer.
I didn't see that trailer.
Oh, okay.
So,
Like
like
a cute little monkey, and then it just stops swearing like a sailor for no reason.
so like the
That's
movie
so dumb.
the movie starts off, or rather the trailer, which I'm guessing is the start of the movie, is like there's police officers outside of the Quickie Stop, and they're like, "Get out, motherfuckers! Identify yourselves, motherfuckers!" And it's like, what the hell? And that's the whole trailer. It's just like fuck, the whole thing. And it's just like, I'm not a prude. I'm not against that sort of thing. But it needs to be written in a way that sounds natural. It needs to be written in a way that sounds like it makes sense, or that's how the characters would normally speak. And it doesn't. It sounds juvenile.
I feel like we just discovered that you are in fact a massive prude.
I am.
You're talking
I
about
am
Madonna.
not. I am
Okay.
absolutely not. Clerks is one of my favorite movies, and Clerks has
Oh my.
has a joke in has one of the most amazing jokes where the main character finds out that his girlfriend sucked like 32 dicks, and then he's ranting about it in his own like store. He's like, 32 dicks. My girlfriend sucked 32 dicks, and then the customer's like, in a row. And then she's like storming out. He's like, hey, don't suck any dick on the way to the park. And the guy starts following her. I love that movie. So
There's-
I fucking love Kevin Smith's stuff. He's great. But he's not great in this trailer, at least. I'm still going to watch the movie, but I'm not excited. I'm like, ugh. I think it's going to be bad, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes.
I reckon.
That aside, though, I've been playing Judgment, so I know that Acer, you played a little bit of Yakuza 0. Did you get far in that?
No, I finished some karaoke. I was just at the beginning.
So you didn't do much. You just messed around with it.
Yeah, I kind of ran in the street as I could, and I was like, this is great. I'll come back to it one day.
Okay.
And I will. I will.
When I need to start a new anime. Gonna come back to this.
Actually,
No, I need to read the subtitles for Yakuza.
I mean, to be fair, I'd say Yakuza is a pretty good game to play when you're like occupied with something else. Like, not when the story is going on, obviously, but if you're doing all the side content, then it actually is a good series, a good game for you to just like, I'm just going to run around town, beat people up while listening to a podcast.
Hollow Knight is also good at that, eh, Boken? You played Judgment, Daniel.
So yes, I've been playing Judgment, which is made by the Yakuza team. They're calling themselves now the Ryoga Gotoku Studio. And it's basically another Yakuza game. Like, almost copied and paste, like, here's more Yakuza. But the story is very different. So, all the other Yakuza games are basically like, with exception to Yakuza 0, where that's like the start of Kiryu's, like when he was young. All the most of the games after that is how like he's trying to get away from the Yakuza life, and it kind of keeps dragging him back in. While Judgment, you are playing as a disgraced lawyer turned detective. So this happens like at the very start of the game. He is able to get an acquittal, and this guy was charged for murder, and he was able to prove his innocence, which is super rare in Japan. Like, they make a big deal about it. It's like 99% of charges are guilty. Like, that's just how it is in Japan. Like, the legal system is completely screwed up. So, like, whenever someone actually gets a not guilty verdict, it's a huge deal, and he was able to do it. But the thing is, right?
Wait, is this actual Japan or just in the
no?
game?
This is real Japan.
Okay.
This is actually how it is in Japan. This is not the game like.
You're a massive otaku, so I'm gonna believe you.
Yes. This is not the game like drumming it up or making stuff up. This is real.
But the game is kind of commenting on it.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, but what happens is right after he gets that not guilty verdict, the guy that he just got the acquittal for literally just turned around and then murdered his girlfriend. And then after that, it completely messes with the main character's head. He's just like, I'm done. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. This is so fucked. Fuck this shit. Like so after that, it time skips like 3 years after, and now he's a detective. And it's so funny because like he before he was like in a suit, clean cut, looks sharp. Now he's like in a leather jacket. His hair's a mess. He lives in a shitty. He doesn't even live in a shitty apartment. His apartment is his office, and he sleeps on the couch. Like, and
sounds like Jessica Jones to me.
Well, then you might like Judgment. And here's a good thing about Judgment, right? It has little to do with the Yakuza series. You don't need to know anything about the Yakuza series to get into Judgment. It plays the same. It even takes place in the same little city, but that's about it. Like, as far as like the story is concerned, all the characters are new. There is not a single character that I've seen that is from the Yakuza series. It is its own story with its own characters. It's like a weird kind of spin-off that doesn't really have much to do. Like, it just goes to show like how much shit happens in this like town in particular, this city district. But yeah, I strongly recommend it. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm like 3 chapters in. The combat is fun. The story is really interesting and really engaging. Like, I love the new main character, Yagami. Because, like, Kiryu from, like, the Yakuza series, he's a bit of, like, a Boy Scout. Like, he's just, like, this dude with a heart of gold. And he's, like, you know, he'll take the shirt off his back to help people. And just, like, he's just a super, super good dude. While Yagami, like, he's not a bad guy. But he's a lot more, like, pragmatic. He's concerned about people, but at the same time, he's like, hey, I'll help you with this, but can you afford me? I'm not cheap, right? Like, he needs money. He needs to eat. So, like one of the first, like, side cases that you do, which was really awesome, was this woman comes in. She's like, I think my husband's cheating on me. And he's like, oh, lady, are you sure about this? Like, 1, I'm not cheap. And 2, you may not want to hear what I dig up. And she's like, no, I want you to do it. And then you find out, yep, he was cheating on his wife with their neighbor. And usually with the Yakuza games, there's like a twist to it, or oh, it was just a silly misunderstanding, because that's kind of how the series goes. They're kind of goofy like that with the side content. But in this game, it was like, nope, it was pretty cut and dry. It was just like, no, he was just cheating on his wife. There was nothing more to it than that. It felt like it felt real, and I was just like, whoa, interesting. So yeah, Judgment's really good. I strongly recommend it. Even if you're not a fan of Yakuza, like if you've never played Yakuza before, I'd say this is a really good place to start. Combat's fun. You could switch between 2 different fighting styles. You can you level up, gain new moves, increase your stats. It's fun. It's good stuff. There's always something to do in town. I like it a lot. Gets a thumbs up. How about you, Acer? What you been up to?
A lot. I just talked to my dad earlier today. Oh, you mean for the podcast?
Yeah.
My internet is slow. I'm trying to there it goes. Reload the page. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. Been digging into my collection, my wish list. A lot of Stephen King stuff, but I'm not going to talk about... Well, maybe I am. One book I listened to was Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said. And that's Philip K. Dick, not Stephen King. And that's often talked about as... I've heard that book talked about as one of Philip K. Dick's best. I don't think it's one of his best. I think it's kind of meh. So, Philip K. Dick, I think we've talked about him before on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
More than once.
Yeah. He's my favorite author. And this book... This is not indicative of why he is. So basically the story is, there's a guy who's like a news anchor, and he's very famous, and everyone knows him, and it's in this futuristic society. And then one day he wakes up, and nobody knows who he is. Like, absolutely nobody knows who he is. And then, over the course of him trying to discover what's going on, people start to recognize him more and more, and he realizes that the reason people forgot who he was was because he was pulled into the psychedelic hallucination of a woman who was a massive fan of his. And that woman has an older brother who was a police officer. And he is the titular Flow My Tears, the policeman said. Flow My Tears is some album he plays. And that girl and the police officer, like their brother-sister, they're in some incestuous relationship. And it's just like, what the fuck am I reading here? Like, nothing is building to anything. It's just this guy sort of, like, what? What is this? So that's my endorsement of that book. But I also read a real book, which was Salem's Lot.
Real book?
Flow My, it's another Philip K. Dick book. What do you want? It deals with, like, what is reality? What is truth? All that good jazz, which we've talked about before. Salem's Lot is amazing. It is so good. Have you guys read it?
No.
No.
Seen the movie or the TV shows or anything?
Is
It's
that-
basically Dracula in the American Midwest. Like, instead, if Dracula came to some small rural American town in like the 60s or whenever, instead of coming to Transylvania in the late 18th century. And it is great. He the main protagonist, it's a Stephen King book, so he's like a writer and he's working on his book. And I think he's from like Maine or something. And the town is actually in Maine. He's from the town, and it's in Maine. And my neighbors are loud. And it's just about how he comes into the town. He's trying to get inspiration for his new book or something. He meets a girl there, and he tells her that, when I was young, I went into this here house, and it was an empty, abandoned like mansion. The Boulder Mansion or something. I don't remember what it's called. It's been a while since I read it. And he saw the occupant who was supposed to be dead, like hanging upside down in one of the wardrobes as a kid when he snuck in. And he was alive. And was like, oh, what a spooky story. Ha 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 ha. And then the story is actually about just how gradually people in the town start disappearing and becoming vampires, and how these guys are like truckers, and they're like, you know, man, I know no city folk knowledge, but I think that there's some vampirism, and it's great. I'm not advertising it properly, but it is good, and apparently James Wan is making a movie of it. I think that could be good.
No, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, you've read Moby Dick, right?
I've read an abridged version many years ago.
Okay. I saw a video recently by Plague of Grapes. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I know who he... I know... I've probably seen some of his videos. I don't know a lot about him, though.
Right. Well, you don't need to. The reason I'm bringing it up is because he just recently released a video called Griping About Villains. And a section of the video is dedicated to breaking down Captain Ahab's character from Moby Dick. I don't know why listening to you talk about these books remind me of that, and I think you would appreciate that.
Okay.
Like, the whole video is really great. I recommend anyone watch it, but I think that part in particular would speak to you.
Okay.
Before we talk about our essay topic, we're all going to take a short break. Hello, everyone. We're back. We have our espressos brewed. We have our papers lined up, and we're going to tackle today's essay question, which is, as mentioned earlier, what can modern games learn from older games? So, I think Acer's channel especially caters around this topic, considering how many older games you talk about. So why don't you lead us off?
Wow.
Are you calling Acer a boomer?
Oh my god.
How dare you, sir?
I'll have you know that
he just sent me a monster meme, so the writing's on the wall.
Look, I am evidently more mature than both of you. I've done my best to sort of provide you both with a model to grow into.
That's debatable.
But I am younger than you guys. So
I mean,
don't call me a boomer.
Maturity is
boomer
relative.
Forms in the mind.
Maturity is not relative. It's what is this conversation? Yeah, see, the original topic pitched was something like, were games better back in the day? And that's very nebulous, because when it's back in the day...
I think that's not nebulous, that's obviously not true.
Yeah, and it's also like, what, are you comparing the last 30 years of video games with what, the last 6 months? That's not fair. Like, any 5-year period will have a lot of good games.
Yeah.
But, so we decided to massage the question a bit. Like, what can they learn from older games? And to put into context a bit before we start talking about it, the reason there's a difference between older games and newer games is because older games were by necessity more experimental. There were no rules, there was no conventions on how these systems should work. Everyone was just trying to do their own thing.
Yes.
From that we got a lot of innovative stuff, obviously. But as good practices and bad practices became sort of standardized, naturally we get into a more, what's the word, stagnant?
Formulaic.
Yeah.
I would say formulaic, but also refined era.
Yeah.
It's just not fair to compare video games right now that had a lot of time learning how to do certain things back to like the PS1 era.
Yes.
Sure.
It's a skewed comparison.
I think another thing to take into consideration is that people were working more with the technology of their time, and of course that is true to an extent today as well, but I feel that the limitations of the hardware were something that people especially had to work around back then as opposed to nowadays. Yes. Which led to more interesting workarounds and innovations as a result.
So that's sort of just the groundwork for what games can learn. We're not saying one is better than the others. It's just there is a clear difference between how games are made versus how they were made. So what can they learn? Wait,
let me interject here, because I agree and I know where you're going, but I think there's still a lot of innovation happening in the indie space, which
absolutely
didn't really exist 15, 20 years ago.
I think it's important to consider that the innovations that happened like 20 years ago were due to certain limitations. And when those limitations are lifted, then new innovations can be born because more can be done.
Yes.
And I think I think it's a little unfair when people go like, games are so much better nowadays because they have no limits. It's a matter of the artist. It's a matter of the creator. And certain creators can work better under certain conditions better than others. And some creators actually thrive with something like the TurboGrafx 16, something random like that. Like they are specifically tuned to work really well under those like really limited constraints, while another creator can work much better when there are no limitations. And they can flourish and they can make something that is just totally out there. So it's not always just this cut and dry thing.
Yeah, obviously, but in my mind, see, that's why I'm bringing the indie space, because I feel like 20 years ago, there wasn't this distinction between AAA and indie, and there were a lot more titles. Like, I've seen videos on the death of the middle market.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're either
middle market.
You're either EA or your drink box making guacamole, right?
Yeah, and it's like the one side drifted towards stagnation and formula and just playing around with the edges and, I don't know, just pumping money into it to make things look prettier and animate better and all that shit. And then the other side is this weird little space where there's always budgetary constraints. A lot of the games aren't as long and as deep as the innovative games used to be back then, because they just don't have the same funding as like a small Capcom teams did back then.
Yes.
So that's why it's hard to say games back then were better or worse. It's just different now. How games are made seems different to me.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
And I mentioned this in my latest video, The Art of Conceptual Scope, but I feel the way that a lot of PlayStation 1 RPGs were made is very emblematic of this idea of working within your limitations. So, like Final Fantasy VII, right? Like, that game is huge, especially conceptually speaking, is enormous. But you know, actually having to like fully render everything in 3D would have been a nightmare. And that's probably why the remake is taking so long, because the idea of Final Fantasy VII, the world is so enormous that having to actually render everything in 3D is a monumental task. But the way that they got around that on the PS1 was through the pre-rendered backgrounds. And I think that's a great way of them to get around, or not even just get around, but just like using what they have in order to make something great, or, you know, something that like took advantage of the PlayStation 1 hardware and to make something, you know, really special. And while I'm not saying that, you know, that specifically is what developers nowadays can learn from Final Fantasy VII, like, I'm not saying they have to make pre-rendered backgrounds, but I think there is something to be said about, like, you know, the idea of like, hey, you don't have to actually render every little bit of detail in order.
You can leave the burden of spectacle to the player.
Like, there are things that can be left to the imagination, and in doing that, you actually make something that's a little more meaningful. Well, I don't know, maybe that's not the best way to phrase it, but you make something where it requires work on both ends. It requires work on the art and the player to like kind of meet in the middle, and I think that process makes something unique.
I would point to, if we want to just elaborate on that, this is exactly the difference between a Morrowind and a Skyrim.
Okay.
Morrowind, you can't passively go through Morrowind. The game isn't gonna get you to the end goal by itself. There's no waypoint, none of that stuff. You need to open up, like, you read your notes, and it's like, fare thee yonder, hereth beeth a cave, upon blah 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 blah, and just massive text block, and you need to really dive into the politics and the mythology of the world, and then you start to discover that each culture has their own specific interpretation of those cultures, and there's so much depth there that you necessarily need to engage with. And Morrowind, for that, becomes so much bigger and so much more realized than a game like Skyrim. Even, like, I haven't read all the books in Skyrim, so I don't know if it is as realized. But I think that's a failure on the game. Morrowind you need to read the books. Skyrim, yeah, you don't really need to read the books. Just go to the waypoint.
No, everyone tells himself, I'm going to read the books, and then after 3 books, they just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never do.
But that's you don't get to Morrowind. You don't complete it that way. You need to actively engage with the material, and like I said, the burden of spectacle can be left on the player. You don't need to animate a massive battle for the player to see at every junction. And that's something older games, I think, collectively just did a lot more of from necessity. But it's something that is often just better. That sort of implied scope.
I see what you did there.
Connecting it back around, Daniel.
It's like poetry.
It's better for certain games. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, of course, I'm going to go back to Dark Souls. That's a modern game that does something similar. I mean, it doesn't force you to read a lot of text, but it forces you to engage with the world and find your way through,
Yes.
which has then sparked a lot of other developers to do the same in their own games, and I'm growing kind of tired of that too. Like, it works sometimes, but I don't always need the game to be unnecessary, need to be just extremely cryptic and withhold information from me just to get me to explore everything. Like, sometimes I want to be on a linear path and I want to be told what to do. It depends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fine line.
But yeah, I absolutely agree with the Morrowind and Skyrim comparison.
I mean, it's a very fine line, right, between being subtle and just being cryptic.
Yeah, but sometimes you just don't want to engage with that subtlety.
Is that the fault of the game?
Yes. No, yeah, I think it is. I think that. Well, I mean, if you put.
I mean, I don't think that's fair to say. So, like, a lot of people play Dark Souls. A lot of people really get into the lore, and a lot of other people don't. So, is the game doing a good job or a bad job? It depends on the person.
Yeah, but
It also depends on the lore, if it's actually worth your time.
But that's also,
Sure.
You don't need to engage with the lore, so it doesn't really matter. You can have a satisfying experience with Dark Souls without doing that.
Sure.
You really, yeah, well, you kind of can with Morrowind, if you just want to go out there and kill monsters and rack up level. If that's your idea of going through Morrowind, then fine. That's how people go through Skyrim. Like, when people go through Skyrim, I'd hazard a guess most people don't get too involved with the lore. Most people don't really care because the game doesn't make you care.
Yeah.
So,
Because the game makes you wander out, find a cave, and then it just automatically sends you to, at the end of the cave, sends you back to the beginning. There's
Find
no
the
looking
red
around.
eagle sword again. Find the red eagle sword again.
Yeah.
And when you are given opportunities to engage with characters in these very highly scripted events, it's always like just, you don't really need to, because you know there's just going to be a waypoint marker, which I'll get, and I'll just get a collectible checkbox here. In Morrowind, one of the cool things there was your quest log, you could bloat that thing out and it would become incomprehensible. So you couldn't have 20 different quests open at the same time and just, I'll get back to that. No, you won't. You have 400 pages open of different quests. You're going to scroll back all the way? Hell no. You stay on, and that makes you stay on the same quest for a lot longer.
I'd say with Souls games, though, like particularly the first Dark Souls, yeah, you can enjoy that game without engaging with the lore at all. But I do feel that if you do, it enriches your appreciation. So, like, the game doesn't push you to do it, but I think it does enough to make it intriguing. So, like, you could find, like, a dead body in Anor Londo, for example, right? And you pass by it, it's just a dead body, whatever. You pick up the stuff, you loot the body, you move on with your adventure. But let's say you decide to equip the armor and you look at the description and you learn about like, oh, wait a minute, this was some badass. This was the armor set of some dude that was like some badass that came here, but then he fell down and that was the end of his journey. Like, it's not like in and of itself, it's not an especially compelling bit of lore, but it does give some more meaning to what you picked up. It does make you go like, it's no longer just some armor that you picked up. It's no, this belonged to someone. This was someone.
It belonged to Black Iron Tarkus.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. This was a person, and you could have gone on with your adventure just like, oh, I just put on some cool armor. But I think knowing the history of where the armor came from, it's more now than just some cool looking armor. It's this piece of history.
There's also Dark Souls does actively reward you for engaging with the lore. Like Artorias' greatsword renders you don't need transient curses anymore to go into New Londo. You can just kill ghosts with it.
Yes.
That's awesome. And like if you read what a Lloyd Talisman does or what an Alluring Skull does, if you test these items out and you know what they do, you're going to have so much of a better time going through the areas. So definitely I think that Dark Souls does have proper incentives for engaging with the lore on some level. Yes.
But I think what makes Dark Souls work is that you could play through all the Souls games and think to yourself, I don't give a single F about the lore, and that is fine. And you can still enjoy those games perfectly well as just fun games. But if you do want to get into the lore, then it enriches the experience for you.
But what about a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 or the new God of War? What can they learn from older games?
Stop taking control away from the player.
Yeah. Not everything needs to be Metroidvania in terms of, especially for God of War.
I think also for God of War, you don't need everything. Like, why does that game have an experience bar?
Yeah.
Why are there different armor sets?
The leveling system...
Doesn't that defeat the point of Kratos?
We already had that discussion, if you guys remember.
The leveling system in God of War is trash. I'm really hoping the sequel gets rid of it. It's bad.
It won't.
It's bad.
You need those Skinner box mechanics.
It's bad.
It is really bad.
I want the sequel to just do Devil May Cry 5. Just go back to being sort of a hack and slash game, but do it like God of War games. They were never that deep, were they?
No.
In terms of mechanics or story?
In terms of mechanics.
No, it wasn't.
Story, I think, was pretty deep, but mechanics...
No. Not really.
But
it was just... I love those games, but I wouldn't call either deep.
I think the first one... I don't know if it's... maybe deep isn't the right word, but it's like a good spin on the classical Greek tragedy. And the point is, I would love for the next God of War to just be a really insanely deep hack and slash, ripping through the Norse pantheon.
Yeah, that would be great. But that's another thing that I think new games can learn from old games. Use the fucking isometric perspective. That's a good perspective that is just for some reason forgotten about in the AAA space. Even though it can look great, it gives you so much control and just visual. You see way more of the battlefield. Why does everything need to be so up close in third person? Why does everything need to be so slow? The best action games I've played in the past years were, shit like Fury.
You know what else would be interesting? Older games didn't really concern themselves that much with being realistic because they couldn't be. They didn't try to do like a really down-to-earth presentation of reality. Games today spend way too much energy on that stuff. Take a game like Red Dead 2. Oh my god.
Well, that's the extreme example.
Yeah, that's an extreme example.
And
does that enrich the game or experience for anyone?
In some ways it does, until you grow bored of it. But in a lot of ways I admire Red Dead 2 for being so slow and so... It's immersive, right? It's almost a simulation. At least...
I played Red Dead 2 for like 6 hours or something, and I put it down and I was like, no, this is crap. I hate this.
I put it down after like 30, 40 hours.
Does it get better?
In terms of what you're complaining about, no.
Oh,
it's gonna grow even worse because you're wasting more and more time on writing.
What about the story?
Cleaning your guns.
This is not related to the essay topic, but like the writing, the story of Red Dead 2, does it become great?
I think that was always great. The problem is the pacing.
Oh.
Because you're just going through mission after mission of boring shootouts. And from what I heard, the story gets really good, but it's just doled out to you in a really bad pace.
Does the main character get good?
Yeah.
Like interesting.
He's good. What the fuck?
I thought he was just the most boring, nothing character in a video game, and I thought so.
Did you see the drinking mission?
I don't remember. I did see a scene where one of the crew, it was like a black kid, he was like, they got me and Bill, and they almost tarred and feathered me. And I was like, that should have been the main character. Because he's like black, and he's living in a racist place, in a racist time, and it makes a lot of sense for him to be an outlaw because society doesn't accept him, but also he can have proper ethics, and then you can make a story about, like the bandit which was thrown out by society is actually the good guy. Instead, it's this, well, come here, Vanderlind gang, come with me. It's me, Arthur Morgan.
Well,
I'm gonna just be a protagonist guy.
Well, Acer, now that's going to be Red Dead 3, and that character's going to be voiced by Lil Nas X.
Oh. Hey, do you think that guy who did those videos about delivering black people to the KKK and deporting Mexicans, do you think he's gonna be on board with my pitch there? Did you guys pay attention to that?
I think you're not giving Arthur Morgan enough credit. And from what I heard, they are doing a lot of interesting stuff with him.
It might. I'm not gonna say either way. Like I said, I dropped the game after a few hours.
Yeah, so 6 hours of Red Dead 2 is like nothing.
Okay.
Is essentially nothing.
Going back to
John Marston is so much. I think John Marston is so much better in the first game.
Getting back to the topic, though. I think one of the things that modern gaming can really take from older games is to cut back on the feature creep. I don't know if you two are familiar with that term.
Yeah, I am.
Sure, but I'm not sure what games you're talking about specifically.
Games like God of War, games like Horizon Zero Dawn, where there's just
everything that's ever been created in a video game is just lumped in there.
Just stuffed in there just because it's expected to be there, rather than trimming the fat and refining what works and what is core to the experience. Like,
yeah, that's what I like to call structure, right? It's just like they give you this tool set and then go, hey, make your own fun. Pick whatever fucking style you want. You can play whatever you want. And then none of the individual tools are actually that well realized.
I think that can work. Like, I played a game called Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, and that... What, you don't like that game?
No.
Well... The story was crap, but I thought the
quests were garbage.
I thought the gameplay was pretty fun. Like, you had 3 different types of play styles, and you could mix them, match them together, and I thought it worked pretty well. Like, I thought it was a pretty fun game. But I do agree that, like, with games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, like, you don't need, like, 6 different types of armor sets for, like, what is this? Like,
Yeah, sure.
Like,
This playstyle is not indicative. The playstyle you guys, the developers, are providing me with is not indicative of how Kratos is as a character.
like, I don't picture Kratos, like, meticulously, like, analyzing different pieces of armor, going like, this will give me more magic resistance, but this is going to make me more agile.
My axe.
Like, it's so.
He should just be ripping and tearing.
Remember when in the third game, an item he gets is just the ripped off head of Helios that he uses as a flashlight?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it's also, in a lot of ways, in a lot of games where you can pick, do I want to be aggressive, or do I want to be stealth, or do I want to, use gadgets? And then you have this main character that can be anything and everything, and I get to choose.
But yeah, none of it works.
Some story beats don't make any sense, and then also some of the challenges don't make any sense because you're way too over-leveled, or maybe you're too early there, but you wouldn't know that. You're just thrown in.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that where for example, some of the challenges in God of War 4, like Muspelheim, I believe it is, the fireplace where you need to kill 100 enemies in a row for a challenge. And I'm like, if I could go grind better gear and come back to this, then it would probably be possible. But I don't want to, and if I just came here at a specific time when the developers intended for me to come here with a specific set of items and power-ups that they intended me to have, then I would be willing to try the challenge. But as it is right now, it is impossible to me because I'm under-leveled and I don't want to grind for that shit. And then I immediately have no motivation for that. And that is part of the, modern, I don't know, make your own adventure and choose whatever you want.
It also doesn't help.
What's great? What's great about the God of War game? They didn't waste any of the good Nordic gods. Like, they didn't waste any of them. All the good gods, all the interesting and fun gods, they're all still available for future games.
Okay, well, I think that the sequel could be really good if they took out a bunch of the guff. They just... And again, this goes back to, like, because I felt like older games especially, those games, again, like I was saying before, they had to work within their means. They were more limited, both by budget and by, like, the technology. And so they tried to really, like, hone in and focus on, like, okay, what are the strengths of the technology? What can we do? And while lifting those limitations can be great, the result can also be this, where everything feels kind of homogenous, everything feels kind of samey. And I think going back to a more razor focus on, like, specific mechanics and just, like, refining them so that the player can utilize those mechanics in more interesting ways rather than just piling on other shit to distract them would make for more fulfilling games.
Yeah, totally.
Like, look at Devil May Cry 5. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Game.
Like, it is razor focused on giving us, like, amazing goddamn combat. There's no crafting. There's no, like, open world. And not necessarily saying those are bad things, but, like, Devil May Cry 5 knew what it wanted to be. It was razor focused and therefore was very successful.
Well, maybe not because of that, but that's why I liked it, definitely. I mean, what game does that? I mean, I could say Fury again, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say Celeste.
Yeah.
Which has a clear progression in terms of gameplay, and it keeps giving you little upgrades that, that just enhance what you've already been doing, and then you get to do it better or more complex.
Well, you don't really get upgrades in Celeste. You get
more jumps and all.
Well, in Celeste, you get, like, different like area gimmicks.
Yeah, sure. But you also get more jumps.
Okay. Oh, I haven't finished Celeste. So.
Okay.
But I got.
You get one more jumps.
I was at the part with like the blocks. When you hold on to them, you can like move them around.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who's listening and is like, "Oh, they're crapping on games I like," absolutely not.
No.
Imagine if The Last Guardian had included a leveling mechanic or a crafting system. Would that have made the game better?
I haven't played that and I'm upset.
No, that game is a very pure vision, and it's very good at telling its story. It doesn't need any like outsider producers going in going, the kids today, they like to build block houses because of Minecraft. The kids today like a battle royale. Can we put a battle royale in this? Those elements that don't add to the sort of central package, they aren't necessary. Mm-hmm. Devil May Cry 5 would not have been improved by an open world.
Spider-Man was not improved by the skill tree.
It wasn't. It
Absolutely.
Really wasn't.
We can say that as an example of what new games can learn from old games. What I wanted to bring up is business practices and payment models in particular, because that shit is grinding my gears currently. All the microtransactions, all the free-to-play bait the players into paying for advantages. All the games that launch for $60 or more and then also have like $50 more of DLC. And it's gotten it got so bad and then got slightly better again that people have completely accepted this now. Because of Battlefront 2, for example, now when a game comes out and it has loot boxes and it starts out with 50...
Boken. They're called surprise mechanics.
Fuck this. Games come out with 50 extra costume DLCs on day one. And people go, oh, that's fine because that's only cosmetics. And I'm going, that's not fine because you've sold me an incomplete game for the price of a full game. And I would like those cosmetics too. Why can't I have those armors or those color sets? Fuck you. I don't want to pay for that. I already paid for this game. And, you look at the mobile market, which is just a complete shit show.
Oof.
It's gotten so worse. And then you go back to the games I grew up with. The gold standard, the Diablo 2. The fucking... what is it, Lords of Destruction expansion? Or Warcraft 3, which had one of the best multiplayers of all time, 4 fucking campaigns that had a lot of content, a great story. It had the whole custom game side thing from which Dota and other, really popular games were spawned from. And you could create those custom games for yourself. And then it came out with the Frozen Throne expansion, which added more units, balancing, another campaign with 3 campaigns plus a bonus campaign that wasn't related. All that shit. And you got that for $30, I believe, the expansion, and the game itself for full price.
I also don't get with a game like Battlefront 2. And I'm not saying this is what I would have preferred, but that's a game that theoretically you could have just made that pay $10 monthly or something like that. And then you just have big events that happen every month. Instead of, no, you have to pay $120 and then you have to pay an extra $5 here, an extra $5 there. World of Warcraft still makes shit tons of money.
World of Warcraft has also introduced a lot of microtransactions, though.
Oh.
You can buy mounts, you can buy level 90 characters. I don't know how far they go now. And even when people talk about, the big thing now is Final Fantasy XIV, right? People talk about that, and I know I wouldn't enjoy it because there's this stupid microtransaction shop where you can just buy advantages. That's also what keeps me from playing Warframe.
Do we know what Final Fantasy VII is going to cost? Like, if I buy a $60 version of that game, am I getting the complete game as it launches, or am I getting a single part?
I don't know.
Because that game is liable to cost $500. And it's gonna bankrupt Square. Like, I want to see them do it, but I don't think they will. I don't think they'll get it right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Japan has caught up in terms of nickel and diming you to death with bullshit.
I mean,
Japan was always far ahead in that regard.
really, I don't think so.
Have you seen Japan?
Really?
With the pachinko machines and that.
That's a different.
They've been
that's
ahead
a
of-
different market.
With the what?
Well, the pachinko guys are in the mobile
Yeah,
games.
that's a
in
Yeah, it's a
different
Japan.
different
market.
market.
I
don't
think in terms
so.
of DLC and cosmetics.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's different.
Eventually,
And
they
of
caught
course,
on.
I'm not against.
Like, have you seen
Yeah.
Senran Kagura?
Even Nintendo now has caught on.
Like, if you look at crap like Senran Kagura, they're like, oh, pay us $10 and you can put the girls in even skimpier bathing suits. Like, Jesus.
Oh fuck!
Oh, wow.
Dead or Alive, which has like $600 worth of costume DLCs,
Jesus Christ.
or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe even more.
But you know what? If you're stupid enough, if you're gullible enough to be sold by that, then you deserve to have your money taken away.
No, because I'm not gullible enough, and games are still designed around that.
But Boken, why are you complaining about this? We know that you don't like Dead or Alive, do you?
No, but I
the
like
comment.
Street Fighter,
That's the.
and
Oh, they're
that
doing
shit
it in
is the
Street Fighter.
same.
Are you saying that you like to buy Chun-Li skimpy bathing suits?
Oh my god, you can get her as a bunny girl.
Hey, I play Sakura, and I bought every Sakura outfit.
Oh, so you
Just
got
because-
Sakura's skimpy bathing suit. I see.
That's one I.
Yeah, sorry.
There's also a slutty reindeer outfit.
Ooh,
Hey, are you
la la,
serious?
slutty reindeer.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And then recently they brought out Roll from Mega Man.
What? In
And
Street Fighter?
then- Yeah.
What?
Dude, we have Balrog being Gutsman, which makes no sense. I don't know why Balrog is Gutsman and not Zangief.
Oh wait. When you say role, you just meant as a costume, right? Not as a Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
as a costume.
Not as a playable
Oh,
character. I was concerned.
And we have a Ryu skin for Mega Man. We have Airman skin for Rashid. We actually have a Nero skin for one of the guys, which looks really good.
So
How does Nintendo do when it comes to these sort of practices? They're pretty on the up and up, right? Like, I've never been inoculated by Nintendo. I've never had to I've never been frustrated at microtransactions from their games that I've been aware of.
So how do you guys feel about a game like Warframe, or where like the game is free to play, but like if you want to get like the extra special cool stuff, like the armors, stuff that you can get for free, but if you don't want to like grind for it, you can pay money.
I'm out, you lost me. Not paying to not grind is also a gameplay advantage. And I'm strictly against gameplay advantages.
Doesn't Path of Exile do the same thing?
I want to say no. There's like 5% yes. I'm gonna be honest about that, but no, Path of Exile mostly doesn't do that.
I think that.
I mean,
like, I'm
Like,
against
you
these
cannot,
practices
you cannot
because
pay
they're
in Path of
annoying.
Exile to skip the grind. There are a few quality of life features you can get, and I'm not sure I like those. And they're pretty big, but you cannot skip the grind at any point. Anyway. Acer, you were saying?
Yeah. for those listening, Daniel keeps muting his microphone because his dog is going haywire. I don't know if I'm so much I'm against these practices. I don't care how a game monetizes, but I think that it's just really poor faith for a company to just nickel and dime people to this extent. I get that. You have different business models, and that you want to monetize the game differently. I like to play Rocket League, and you need to keep servers up, and you need to keep people working, and how are you gonna do that with a game like Rocket League? You're gonna charge people $1 every month? No, you need to do I don't know.
Remember the good old days where you just bought a game and that was it?
It just works.
It just worked.
I remember putting years of my life into Warcraft 3, and at no point did people complain that the servers are too expensive.
Yeah, but games have gotten a lot bigger since then.
Sure.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't even
money.
thinking that. I was just like, you used to buy like PS2 game. There was no DLC. You just bought it, and that was your game, and that was it. You call it a day.
Yeah.
And then.
I mean, you can still. There's still indie games.
Sure,
right?
sure. But
and
the PS3, 360 era, like that generation, was it the 7th gen or whatever? That brought in like so many bad habits that are persisting and getting worse today.
Yeah,
like that
totally.
that whole generation
And I'm not,
was fucked.
I understand that companies want to make more money after a game is released, but as always in this industry, and as always in in capitalism, it's just completely overdone.
Well, what happened?
They get more and more.
Yeah, what
greedy.
happens is they're like, oh, we can fuck them. Well, let's see how hard we can fuck them before they start complaining. Oh, they're not complaining yet? Fuck them harder.
And then they go too far. People complain for 5 weeks straight, and then they just go back to the step before that, and suddenly that's accepted.
It's like, okay, we'll take the dick out a little bit. People stop complaining. Put it back in.
What is this? What is this? What is this conversation becoming?
Complaining about corporations being shady and shitty.
Yeah. I think that another lesson is just, and this is something, I don't think this is something games can learn. I think this is, or developers can learn. I think this is something consumers should learn. It's okay to not part with your money for everything. You don't need to buy the games. You don't need to buy every triple.
You don't
need to engage with this shit.
It's okay to buy the game, but you don't have to get every piece of content. Like, you don't have to buy every hat. You don't need to buy all the crap.
Also, you should be buying games from people who are doing something different, who are doing new things. Don't pirate a game like Shovel Knight. That's such a fantastic game, and so many people just pirate it. You're not going to get more of that good stuff if you keep doing that.
Some people don't care about innovation.
Yeah, and some...
Like you, Bogan.
What?
Hey, I bought Shovel Knight.
Bogan Jima Smear Campaign 2019.
I bought Shovel Knight 3 times. Yeah, I gave my PS4 copy away to my nephew. Why
didn't you give it to me?
You can have my Vita copy.
Now Asa needed to pirate it. See what you've
No,
done.
I have to pirate it, Daniel.
I also got the PC version. So that's
I want Yacht Club Games to do a Shovel Knight, Super Shovel Knight maker.
What, like a Super Nintendo version?
No, like a Super Mario Maker, but for Shovel Knight.
Where people can make their own Shovel Knight levels? That'd be neat.
Yeah, and it could be on multiple platforms, which the Super Mario Maker can't. I think it'd be a good way to sort of catapult that franchise a bit further.
I doubt that will happen. They're still technically not done making Shovel Knight. I'm
so frustrated that they keep Like, how many fucking years ago did the game launch? They're still fulfilling their Patreon, their Kickstarter promises. Why can't you just do something new?
Yeah, I mean, I respect that dedication, but at the same time, it's like, hey guys, how about you make something else?
How about you make another Shovel Knight?
Shovel Knight 2 or a completely different game.
Shovel Knight 64.
I was actually really excited when I first heard about Cyber Shadow until I realized that it was being published by Yacht Games. They weren't actually making it. I was like, oh, Yacht Games are making a Ninja Gaiden Metroidvania type game? That sounds awesome. Oh, it's not actually them. Oh, well...
I'm looking forward to the what is it called? King's Knight campaign. That is apparently still coming.
Yeah,
and I would give them money
the
for
King
it.
of Cups or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the biggest reason why I haven't really played Shovel Knight yet. It's because I'm waiting for them to finish the game.
But you don't want to play all the campaigns one after another. I mean...
Yeah, that's another one. I hated both the Plague Knight and the Spectre Knight campaigns. I hated them.
Why?
I thought they were... No, I say I'm hating them. They were fine. I liked the base game so much more.
I didn't. I think Plague Knight is such a great
Really?
innovative movement set, yeah.
Oh.
Spectre Knight not so much. But Plague Knight has so many double jumps and weird powers that I found that way more engaging than the very basic gameplay of Shovel Knight.
Did you play the Nintendo version of Shovel Knight?
I played it. What do you mean the Nintendo version? I played Spectre Knight on Switch.
Oh, okay. Because the Nintendo version, I thought you had maybe just played the PC version of Shovel Knight.
I did, and I played the PC version of Plague Knight. But for Switch, that was, I believe, a Spectre Knight exclusive for a while, or timed exclusive. So I played it there.
I'm saying this because the Switch has a lot of add-ons to the original Shovel Knight, like a lot of different movesets and stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah, then
There's
I didn't see
co-op
those,
mode.
I guess.
I think that's the best version of the game.
But you know, if I am currently watching the SGDQ that just came, that just was aired a few weeks ago. I'm going through the archives, seeing all the speedruns I like. And if I ever get into speedrunning, it's probably going to be the Plague Knight campaign. Because that shit is cool. And that, if you watch a speedrun of that game, they do a lot of cool shit with the powers he has.
So getting, are we ready to wrap up the topic question?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's just...
Can we kind of do a summary of what we got at?
Don't nickel and dime people. Don't feature bloat your games. Just... Nobody is not buying a game because it doesn't have an upgrade tree. Nobody cares about that. Not everything needs to be the same. You can do just a streamlined vision.
I would say have a little more faith in your players. Not everything needs to be explicitly laid out. There's something about video games. There's something special about that interactivity in games that creates like a unique sense of engagement that you can't get anywhere else. And the more you take away from that, the less the purpose of the medium has. I guess I'm trying to say, like, I feel like we should be taking advantage of that more.
At a certain point, you're just making a movie.
Yes.
Or a book. Could you imagine if they tried to do Silent Hill 2? Like if they tried to release that now? Oh, what's with the tank controls? You need to have crosshair aiming. And his health should it should regenerate. Why can't you see the health of the enemies? This story doesn't make any sense.
Why do I need to pause the game to see my health bar? It should just be on all the time.
It should just be on the time. Why isn't there
that
a HUD?
Sounds like a
HUD would be so
to
much
me.
better. No, it's a bad complaint.
Fuck you. That is a shitty thing to say. The HUD the HUD getting in the way would, like, that's as much as I think Silent Hill 4 gets more shit than it deserves. Having the life bar on the screen, having a fucking like gamey ass HUD with a charge meter, just like takes away from the atmosphere.
Yeah. You're no longer looking at these grotesque monsters. You're just looking at these. You're just trying to sort of maximize the statistics of shooting people. There's a hornet trying to stab me here while we're recording. Can we wrap this up?
Do not kill
Okay,
it.
so for the sake of
I absolutely will, Bogan.
No, stop
for
it.
the sake of Acer's well-being, we will cut the podcast slightly short. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Bye-bye.